You're going to start off with coverage of the bombing on Easter Sunday in Pakistan.
That's right. Criticism on social media, Chris, for the lack of importance that was given to the bombing in Lahore on the French evening news on France 2 yesterday. There were quite a few tweets saying, for example, this one here, the suicide attack in Pakistan, with the death toll currently standing at 65 dead. That was a tweet written yesterday evening. Only got 20 seconds on the main evening news on France 2. This is a record. Bravo. I think that's very much tongue-in-cheek. This article perhaps attempts to explain why. Now, it's a piece in medium.com by a Guardian journalist called Martin Balam. Now, he says, look, unfortunately, it's not just a case of the media themselves giving less importance to certain terror attacks or tragedies, depending on where they happen. It's also a question of the interest shown in these stories by the public, the difficulty of getting people to read about Lahore. Now, what he noted is this morning, Monday morning, despite the fact that it was front page news on the Guardian's homepage for several hours, if you look at the most clicked on stories, it was well down the list. So that means that people who were going on to the Guardian homepage were not necessarily clicking on the most prominent story, perhaps because there's a degree of fatigue around these sort of tragedies. People are reading a lot about them and perhaps don't want to be exposed to the sadness of it all. But also there is the possibility that it's just seen as not as close to home for readers in Europe in any case. These cartoons demonstrate it's also the sense that there is an unequal coverage of attacks depending on where they happened. I think the image speaks for itself. The Paris attacks, the Brussels attacks, getting a lot of media coverage, flags at half-mast, and less so in Ankara, less so in Lahore. This map has been shared quite a lot on social media by Boing Boing, the website. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, saying how terrible it is to the Western world when a tragedy happens in. Red means it's seen as very tragic, right down to brown, where it's not seen as tragic at all, even though the legend is less elegantly written than that. One more piece of information on this. This is on Mashable.fr, which was recently launched in association with France 24. And they have a story here about how there was an image of the Eiffel Tower. Now, this goes back to 2007, where it was lit up in what could be interpreted as the colours of Pakistan. That was being shared online. People thought the Eiffel Tower had also been lit up in homage or to the victims in Lahore. That didn't actually happen, and I suppose confusion around that on social media. Also, I suppose, pointing to the fact that there isn't necessarily exactly the same approach to attacks depending on where they happen. You could say, of course, Brussels is just over the border, so perhaps it's normal that France would respond more strongly.
Okay, next on to the Syrian government troops retaking Palmyra. A lot of different takes on that.
That's right. If you're looking at Russian media, it's very jubilant. Of course, Russian troops helped Assad's forces to retake Palmyra. So on SputnikNews.com, a Russian news website, hurrah! Local residents compare Palmyra victory with Nazi defeat in Stalingrad. There are also Russian drone images, which are being shared around social media. That one was broadcast on Russia Today and elsewhere. Which are showing, I suppose, or at least trying to put the spotlight on the fact that the city wasn't completely destroyed, which is seen as a success. Others saying, well, what about the human tragedy? It's all very well to be talking about the heritage of the city, but of course there were an awful lot of deaths there as well. The focus is somewhat different elsewhere. Some people saying to talk about Palmyra being freed is definitely a misnomer, seeing as Bashar al-Assad's troops are I suppose, taking control, and Bashar al-Assad is not necessarily ideal in terms of, human rights and all of that. Slate.fr pointing to the fact that one of Assad's most brutal prisons was actually in Palmyra until it was taken over by the Islamic State organization last year. So it's not exactly ideal under any circumstances, the ruling, whatever rule the people of Palmyra find themselves under. I'm not sure if... I think there's a slight glitch with the computer, but quite a lot of differing coverage depending on where, what website you go on, Chris, the spin that's being put on it, if you like.
And finally, a Twitter storm with a difference here in France.
That's right. There was a French minister, the Minister for Rural Territories, who published a press release, Chris. Having a little bit of trouble showing it to you, but
sorry about this.
He issued a tweet. One sec, I'll try to get it. But basically, what happened is he tweeted about financing of rural territories, etc. and decided then to draw attention to that tweet with a press release, which is a little bit out of date. And it led to quite a lot of finger pointing and laughing on social media, with people saying, what next? Are we going to have a town crier drawing attention to tweets? Isn't the tweet meant to have replaced, in some senses, the press release? In any case, a little bit of internet trouble here. I was going to show you those tweets, but let's just say that there was a lot of derision for a press release drawing attention to a tweet.
We're
Hold on.
we found it.
We now have internet connection. Isn't that
We've rebooted.
Isn't that very modern? So I will show you some of.
It's dial-up.
Indeed. So here we have the press release. You can see that there. Please find here attached the tweet from the Minister of Territories and Rurality, and there you have said tweet.
So nice and old school.
There you have the town crier. And there you have, I think that's a sort of a telegraph system also, perhaps sending tweets. You can see that poor Mr. Jean-Michel Baillet got quite the roasting.
He was
social media.
Just trying to get with the kids. Thanks very much, James Creedon. Thank you very much. That was Media Watch. We're going to take